Welcome to The Hinge with Noel and Jake, a spiritual meander on the mystery of being human.
Welcome to The Hinge, podcast with Noel and Jake. Welcome, listeners. Day 3 of The Gathering.
Yeah, day 3. Day 3 of, not that I'm counting, it's been lovely 3 days, and isn't it nice, when somebody says, how are you getting on? What are you? Yeah, having a grand old time. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and they're saying, anything nice for the weekend? I said, don't have to wait for the weekend, It's
already here.
It's already here. What are you doing? Not really much. Eating Tim Tams in the Isle of Wight, hanging out with Jake, going for walks, having conversations, going to the Abbey, sharing in Lectio Divina. Yeah. That's been a real, flowed out from, day one coming over and, I mean, it did a little bit of, you've probably been practicing Lectio Divina for how long?
It's coming up for 10 years.
Yeah.
Steady pace, once a month.
Yeah.
In the group.
Yeah.
You were talking earlier when we were in the preparation, tending to yourself. And we decided that we wanted to give the theme today, love. And that Lectio Divina, how does that connect? Polishing the vessel that is me.
That's right.
In the outpouring of love. And of course, the polishing of that vessel is also an act of love, right? Self-love. Right. To be able to serve better, to be more available to the world. Love is a service to others. Love is a privilege.
That's right.
And,
Yeah, that I might be useful.
Yeah.
That you might use me, and I suppose then the difficulty with language sometimes, I think the difficulty for language, or some of us, is, think, use me, that's a bad thing. And love, even like that, because it's a fairly lofty word, and what it means, fairly loaded.
Yeah.
And as we were sitting, and because we sat this morning, didn't we? And we read, was it from Mark?
Mark, yeah.
Yeah. And, what are the commandments that are the most important? Yeah. So I'm listening to this, and, because the last 3 days, I don't know where, one conversation began. Where did I hear that? Was that talking with you? But all the time when we're listening, to one another, thinking about, the first duty of love is to listen.
Yeah. So thank you, listeners. And if you're confused, stay with it.
Yeah. And so the 2 commandments, to love your God with all your heart, with all of your strength, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, and to love your neighbour as yourself. And yet sometimes I might get lost in thinking that loving others as I love me, like this beautiful connection where I begin to forget about, the small me, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And when we were unpacking it a little bit already, but and this lofty word love.
Yeah.
As a meander, I want it to be lofty, and I want it to be quite a big thing. I want it to stay something awe-inspiring and shocking, not like on Radio 2 at the end of a call. Love ya! Like I'm just wiping something off my shoe before I move on to the next conversation. Love ya! Right?
Yeah.
It's a degrading of something that's very precious, and I think also because love is such an accessible word, people don't feel they can believe, they don't believe, they actively think there is no higher power. Love is a very connecting word, right? Because I imagine if I'm an atheist, I do still believe in love, and I still want to love my mum.
That's right.
My sister.
Yeah. And be loved.
And be loved.
Yeah.
You know, so that transcends a lot of it. It also transcends the conversation. Well, there's no God. Okay, well, we won't call it God. Let's call it something that we can mutually be comfortable with. And you can say that in any language, love. Right? And it transcends everything.
That's right.
So it's got to be an awe-inspiring word, because if that's not left, if that's not awe-inspiring anymore, what are we doing?
And
love your Lord. I was coming back to that. The Lord is one.
Yeah.
Jesus says, right? The Lord is one. So if you love the Lord, you're loving yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. You know, and that's also a little bit why I started with 3. This is the 3rd day, because it's a completion number, right?
That's right.
You're coming to or even though we've got a couple of days left, which we are looking forward to a lot, we're right in it. We're having fun. But love,
Yeah. And
lofty.
Word. You know, and then I was sitting and I was thinking about a poem that I wrote for a couple in the States, Stephen and Natalie, that their dad, very good friends with their parents. I didn't know Stephen and Natalie, and he texted me one night, and like she's 5 hours ahead, got this text, and maybe he said, I'd like you to invite you to the wedding, and maybe you'd write a poem. And I'm like, I was like, the ego part of me that hadn't quite shown up yet. It was, about, 12 o'clock at night. So, the way you can read a text without seeing it fully. And but then I woke at 5. And as soon as I read the text, these words came to me. It is love that asks, love that answers. What would love have me do in this situation? What does love ask of me? To say something, to remain silent, to say yes, to say no. Because I'm thinking about love, there's a sort, like you're giving up, I feel you're giving up your will in love, but not to be confused with ignoring your own real, very real needs.
Yes.
I think people, as I sit with them, get confused about that experience.
Yeah. So the wheels can come off on many fronts, right? Like you forget yourself, and then you start wondering why you're such a terrible friend because you've just not looked after yourself for a while, and then the consequence is that.
That's right.
But also, if the Lord is one, how much time are you prepared to spend with that lofty concept called love? What is love for me? What would love have me do? How can I love? Am I loving myself? How am I loving the other? Love, love, love.
Yeah.
But, not love ya, because that takes about half a second, but it means very little.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
And maybe it's a bypassing the action that sometimes, Jake, wonder, that requires me, because the action that's required is not love you. Let me listen to you as a way of loving you.
Yeah.
And the sitting in the Lectio Divina, the lovely surprise, the last. Is it a surprise? Maybe that's... Anyway, the experience was, I was just sitting in the morning. So it's this morning you said to me, what do you want to do? Do you want to sit in silence, or do you want to engage in Lectio Divina? And it's like, let's stay with that.
Yeah.
Because yesterday morning it was so generous.
Yes.
And then we come to and then Annabelle comes home last night, and then there's certain conversations, and then there's 3-way conversation this morning, and then there's engaged in this, and you're like, I really don't know what's happening. Yeah. But I'm sure enjoying the gaze of your love.
Yeah.
It's
curious. And with wisdom literature of any religion, I'm convinced I've read very little, a little bit of Upanishads, but I'm sure, if you read that with attention more than once, and for me it's usually the first time in Lectio Divina you have 3 rounds of reading with time for responses, right? And the first time I understand very little. I mean, I just cognitively read the text. That is actually, there's not much going on in these texts. Usually it's 10 lines. There's a commandment, or there's somebody sitting by a well, or there's somebody, accusing Jesus, or something. It's just a brilliant story. And then you give an echo, and you hear other people's echoes of what they heard in the text, and you're like, gosh, I hadn't realized that was even, and so slowly it starts to, the fountain starts to come up to pressure and starts giving more and more. Right? And then the second reading, you're hearing, am I still listening to the same text? It's curious, right? Yeah. Now, I have to say, maybe secretly, I'm also doing this with movies in a different way. That's, you watch the same movie 5 times and it doesn't seem to be the same movie. It's less transformative than scripture. That's a thing, that's for sure. And I was a little bit expressing my sadness that it's difficult to access nowadays because the distance from religion, and religion has itself to blame for that, or the institute has this. Religion is a good concept. Praising God together, sharing, talking about love together, carrying pain, being heartful together, sharing joy. But in the last 70 years, it's maybe, probably longer, but there has been this resistance, and so we've all exited. And with that, many things have got lost. And it's taken me some trouble to get into Lectio Divina. It's not that easy. It's like, well, that's a good idea, Lectio Divina. When do you even pick it up? How do you even know about it, right? So, now I'm going to do that. I'm going to look it up on Google, and then I will start doing that. So I was in a monastery in Verona in 2016, I think. And I was staying there because my consulting company I worked for had just organized a gathering there. Found a beautiful place to stay in the vineyards and the hills of Verona, just outside of Verona. Beautiful place. So we were then not there for any faith-related purposes. Perhaps to speak about love a little bit in business, and there was a group of people sitting in a room next to the dining room. 20 people, and they were sitting there reading, and I had no idea what they were doing. And so afterwards, I asked one of the priests, "What was the gathering about?" Just out of curiosity. We were doing Lectio Divina. Well, what is that? And so I didn't know what it was. Anyway, and I thought it felt good because I looked through the window and people were very engaged, and it was exchange, and it was quiet. There wasn't like talking exchange, but it was like. You saw somebody say something, people wait, somebody give another contribution. They spoke it in Italian, and I didn't speak Italian at the time. So, and by the way, I was looking through the window, so I probably wouldn't have heard anything. So then I moved to the Isle of Wight, and I'm introduced to the abbot of the monastery here. And at the second conversation, he said, "Is there anything particular you would like to do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I remember something." And because it had to stay with me, like one day I would like to, and I also understood you can do it alone. I looked up what the formats were, but I would like to do it in a group and with somebody who can give you guidance. Who is it? I said, "Is it possible to do Lectio Divina?" And that's how it started. And we've been doing it now for well over 8 years, every month. Sometimes a month is skipped because it's Christmas or can't get it together for traveling, but we try to do it every month. And if not everyone can make it, we try to get everybody involved, but at some point you have to choose a date so we can make it happen. And it's been very, very surprising. Very surprising. And it's a very simple format, and it's about this sinking in. And the link that I see with that is you and I making this podcast that we think is a brilliant idea. from a conversational perspective, from a head-to-head space. And we feel in our hearts it's good, and sometimes we're a little bit wobbly. We're like, is it really good enough? Yeah, it's nice that people said that they appreciated it, but how many people is it really? And we're here together, also discerning that. And I was coming back to the unarticulated desire, and we know that what we're doing here is about our common desire of bringing something into the world that is important to us, and we want to make a contribution to that conversation about a contemplative life, what it is to love, how hard life can be, and that there's also hope. And there's one, and Tim Tams.
And Tim Tams, yeah.
Thank
God for Tim Tams.
Let's not get too heavy.
You know what I mean? And I've been enjoying, so I had, obviously the breakfast, well, not obviously, but I had the breakfast earlier, and then, it's 11 o'clock, I'll have a coffee, and Tim Tam, you know what I mean? I'm going to be, and, that's...
Because love is joyous.
Love is joyous.
So you celebrate it with a Tim Tam.
Yeah, sometimes it's that simple, my father used to say, he used to have a saying, and he'd say, sometimes, because you'd be working hard on the farm and things can go wrong, and you know what I mean, and maybe in his frustration, he'd say, "'Tis quite simple," and one of the things over the last 15, 20 years, I changed that, and inside myself, still hearing his voice, still loving him from this place to that place, because he passed away, and saying, you know what, Dad, it is quite simple, but we get lost in so your phrase a couple of weeks ago where you say, we're articulating a desire we've not fully understood yet. And that desire, we were reading from your book, seeing that piece on love, that love is a desire and a duty.
Yeah.
And the first duty of love is to listen. Yeah. I'm no theologian, but St. Paul Tillich says, and then in a conversation yesterday, and, we were talking, three men, three different, back to the three, that, two older men, different professions, legal, medical, me and, social services, and all of us united talking about listening.
Yeah.
And that's all we were doing. Yeah. 'Tis that simple.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes the quality of my listening is so poor, or the quality of my loving is so poor, because I'm so caught up in my own idea of what I think I know, that I'm not really listening as love is pouring itself out as somebody's words.
Yeah, and sometimes we are, and we have to forgive ourselves, right?
We do, yeah.
Lots of times. It was a late night last night.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of unrest in this house.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep too well.
Yeah.
And you feel that you're a little bit, and so you have to really attend to yourself, to settle yourself. Because if you don't do that, from there, ensues a whole slew of disasters, right?
Yeah.
So you have to say, I have to be a little bit careful,
Yeah.
Because I'm not at my best, We were doing Lectio Divina, and I gave a massive response to a contribution to someone, Talk about, it's embarrassing, Not for the others, for you, for me.
Yeah.
Right? You say, there's nothing wrong with there's no problem with that.
Yeah.
But notice, you're out of balance.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to do something nice, because you wanted to contribute, but actually you were diluting the story that was a great sharing.
Yeah.
Right? It's difficult to see that in yourself. You say, I need to slow down. Because when you want to make it simple, you got to slow down. Yeah. Simple is never fast. Love ya.
Yeah.
That's not simple.
Yeah.
That's that's a car crash waiting to happen.
Yeah. What does Gerald May say? That he talks about love and efficiency. He said and when we were talking about that lately, going to GP surgery, and do you mind paying before you see? And I'm like, what? Yeah. Paying before I see. First I want to check out maybe what it's like, But I'm thinking about the moment, Jake, where you you know, so you say, oh yeah, look, you know, it's a little bit busy and inside yourself, and the moment, and you, as you listen to yourself and the loving part, oh God, look where I've gone, and then we're invited, and you're invited into a little bit of tenderness, and then the part that's underneath that, I said, oh yeah, I'm a little bit unsettled in myself. Like sometimes, you know, as I'm sitting with people or friends and they share things, you're sitting with somebody, and you know, and a question I might say to them often is, what's the most loving thing? Which isn't, I mean, there are many variations of this, you know, what's the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? Which sometimes the simplicity of, I believe, that question, yet then on the other side of it, the listening, the depth of that question inside me and what that might ask me to do. Like somebody might say to, I'm thinking about people who have experiences, we were talking a little bit about this, where people have experiences, so they're engaged in, like, say, Davina, you and your, you know, the road you've been on, other people, and, you know, there's this change going on and you don't even notice that something has changed. And somebody might say, well, you know, what happened to you? Love happened.
Yeah.
You know, but it's hard at to call, you know, because it makes no sense sometimes. Then, the lovely surprise, so maybe surprise was the right word, reading Lectio Divina and listening, you say, and then finding how that spoke to me in the conditions and circumstances of my life, in my little small life, which is as precious. All our lives are so precious, and when we're all so precious, and so there's a little bit of bread for the road.
And in facilitation, for instance, you know, you are invited to speak from the I, right? To keep it safe for others and to also take responsibility.
Yeah.
But in Lectio Divina, this is for hundreds of years. This has been, you know, when you talk about how God is speaking to you, you know, God is telling us, no, God is telling us nothing. He's telling you something. So I heard. And so it sits in the fabric of our society what we're doing. And our conversation also brings me to the part of the unarticulated desire that what we're doing is very normal, very ordinary, and very essential. And I've had in the past, you know, when people spoke of love and faith and religion, that it became a bit dusty and dowdy and preachy and holier than thou, and that they wouldn't swear.
Yeah.
You know what? Fuck, man, I swear. You know, I'm a sinner. How couldn't I? You know, they're all like, what are we trying to role play here?
Yeah.
We're showcasing real normal stuff, normal guys, normal people who want to showcase that it's also possible to live a life in love, and that it's normal. You know.
Yeah.
And we're not one hair better than anyone else. We haven't seen the light. You know, we're still running around in the dark, but we know we're loved, and it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Right.
And to allow that in, you know, like we were talking about the word holy, maybe it was yesterday, the day before, and, you know, where Richard Rohr, you know, a teacher who's been very helpful to me in my movement around, and he said, you know, growth in holiness is a willingness to be loved and to love, but it begins to be loved.
Yeah.
But in the context of, as I appreciate or coming to appreciate sacred scripture, it's like, all right, first I've got to say yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm already in the experience. I am, you know, that experience of love. Yeah. And as I know myself as my deepest identity, beyond any thing that has brutalized me or how I've been brutalizing to others, or any of the other, that begins then to, and my experience of sitting with people who are full of that joy, or they're not trying.
No, it's not trying. Yeah.
You know,
and they're with the simplicity also.
Yeah.
And we have good days. Sometimes I think I'm doing it too. Right?
yeah, look at me.
And as I'm about to look up, full of joy and pride, like, I crash again. But the complexity of the commandment, to come with 3 days together. We started on day 1. I was 1, you were 1. I traveled towards you to pick you up. We became 2. On day 2, we were 2.
That's right.
And on day 3, we were in 3, because we're in 3 now, because Annabelle came home.
That's right.
And there's the commandment to love your God, who is one, with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength, and love yourself as your neighbor. That's 2. But I think that's the 3rd, is love thyself. And there's an assumption in that thing, love yourself as your neighbor, because that you are really good at loving yourself. But the explanation perhaps is that, but actually you need to maybe start with that. How well are you loving yourself? Because if you're treating your neighbor very poorly, there's probably something wrong with the loving of you.
Yeah.
Because you may not even be capable of giving that love, because you are not loved.
Yeah. That there are errors in thinking or behaviour that begin to happen for all of us.
Yeah.
Every single one of us, I wasn't very loving. What happened for me, I became overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I became stretched, and I didn't have a handle on that, and then I became judgmental or prejudiced or whatever the pieces are. And when you were saying love thyself, I was thinking about whoever says know thyself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
it's... Look it up.
Yeah.
Because you thought it was Plato. Maybe it is.
Yeah, maybe.
Or was it Socrates? Aristotle.
One of those guys, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, okay. Because everything flows out from that place then.
Yeah.
And for me, my practice, which would be centering prayer, has been, but also I'm saying, when I think about going back to Ireland, go and engage in a practice. Yes, the centering prayer has served me really well. And now I'm beginning to glimpse a new practice. And of course, it's always, to share that is always, it's like being in the Abbey last night.
Yeah. I mean, they're all of one piece.
Yeah.
They belong together.
Yeah.
It's actually not an addition to me. It's like a strengthening and an integration. They talk to one another, these practices.
Yeah.
And practice improves with the other.
Yeah.
And you see, of course, in a monastic community, people put that bit first, especially in the Benedictine, the adage is ora et labora. So the prayer, the ora is before the labora, right? And that's a real choice, right? To pray for the world, to praise God for the well-being of the world. And it's good to glean that a little bit from them, by just being with them and just following, not getting it right. It's not about getting it right, it's about doing it, and being there with them. And you see them come in very ordinary, right?
That's
it's
right.
The adoration moment. Some of them went in, some of them went out, some of them came 2 minutes before the last office, on their knees. Sort of an intense silence, focusing on the Blessed Sacrament. But that intensity and strength of commitment, you talk about champions and success, there's this saying, there's 10% talent, 90% discipline.
Yeah.
And these guys are no better than anyone else. I'm not saying that. They would say that.
Yeah.
We know nothing about prayer.
Yeah.
That's why we're working so hard at it. We want to get better at it.
Yeah.
And it's an infinite path that is very giving, right?
Yeah.
And it's quite beautiful.
And then the loving the self, because this week we were sharing around that, and whereas you say about the simplicity, it is, it is quite simple, and we do the work and we show up. And this week I was doing engaged in the middle of, or nearly towards the end of this thing called compassionate mind training, and one of the parts is that we have many parts, and there are many parts of myself that I mightn't want somebody else to know about. But actually, they're the parts that are most in need of love.
Yeah.
They're the parts in me that have been most fragmented, most abandoned, most rejected, feel most alone, feel most exiled. And that's when we read the Bible, we read sacred scripture, story of the prodigal son. We were talking about that earlier this week, and it's like, there's a place for everybody at the table.
Yeah.
It's already been given.
Yeah.
It's already been set out that way.
And the protective move, of that thing that's very vulnerable, is actually making it lonelier and lonelier. So we really have to, at some point, find a breakthrough, because transcending is probably quite difficult, but something has to happen to us, or we have to find a way to give up the protecting of that thing that actually needs the most love, that we're holding it, and nobody can give us something, because we're not, nobody knows it's there even, because it's hidden. And it's great sadness to see people protecting.
Yeah.
Keeping it, being aloof on a certain path, keeping distance. Intellectualizing. Yeah. How does that feel? I think.
Yeah. How do you know that in your body? Somebody saying to me, how do you feel, 25 years ago? What is that fella even talking about? You know what I mean? Because, I would read books and I would enjoy, and I still enjoy reading those things. We've been having a laugh. Well, what if you read only one book?
Yeah.
You had to go to a desert island, and you had, you can bring one book.
Yeah.
Hermann
Hesse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Really amazing.
Yeah. And because the poem I was sharing yesterday, talk about, the thing we're protecting, Jake, and Mary Watola Trommer, and she says, to name all parts as beloved. And I think that is very radical for us. So I'm thinking about how, love, you said in first reading of Lectio Divina, and said, I kind of understand this at a cognitive level. And then these echoes, I think that was the word used, or an echo inside you, and it begins to expand you and expand you. Where is that coming from?
Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah.
And it's so like when we sit with people, we sit with friends, and, we imagine, if they really knew this about me, or, listeners, and then everybody carries parts of them that, we begin to hide. The very thing, our most precious things. It's like doing the podcast and saying, all right, I'm following this, listening. Episode 10, we're going to talk about God. All right, I wasn't quite ready for,
What will they think?
What will they think?
They'll all stop listening now. And you'd be forgiven, I mean.
Yeah, and any of the students, any people I worked with, what's that guy on about now? And it's like, just following, just listening.
That's how it is.
That's how it is.
That's how it is.
Because to do otherwise would be to say, I'm not going to listen.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continue to set aside, something that is constantly, that has always been bubbling up.
So I want to share something else with our listeners. And we wanted to talk, have a podcast this week about permission. But this morning I wasn't feeling it. So Noel indulged me and said, okay, if you're not feeling it, we're not doing it. Yeah. It's great wisdom in that, indulging your partner. I might even give you a Tim Tam. But we're talking about permission.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I'm going to do an enumeration now. We gave ourselves permission to talk about love.
We did.
We gave ourselves permission to talk about God.
We did.
We muted ourselves by saying people won't appreciate that. That might be weird. We think it's right, but there are many people who have judgment about it. And we decided to not let that be a factor. Because do we know for sure that is true? No, we don't even know. Maybe everybody who's listening to this podcast will say, it is wonderful. And maybe the whole world thinks, yes, we need to talk about love. And does that matter? No. Is it true for you that we need to talk about love? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But when we speed up,
And it's so curious. The enumeration, when we speed up, sorry. And
we become less slow and then become uncertain and it's not simple anymore.
Yeah. And the wheels start coming off. Because when you said, we gave ourselves permission to talk about love, and I said, we did, and then I could hear inside me, but it wasn't hidden, the word, we gave ourselves permission to talk about love. Amen.
Amen.
We gave ourselves permission to talk about God. Amen.
Amen.
It's that simple, as my father used to say. It is quite simple.
It's quite simple.
You know, and then when I suppose being up at the Abbey and seeing the men, and also in other places where I've been, you know, I'm thinking about aunts of mine who are in this life of simplicity.
Yeah.
You know, because life can be really hard. Life can be, and it can get very complicated in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's often the answer, it seems to me, all the time is love.
Yeah. So I mean, just to be very clear, we're not selling religion here. We don't expect you to have a faith because then you will be better. But to seek love with an open mind, and with an open mind to look for where it is. That's for me a little bit the invitation. That's what I would wish for people. You don't have to do anything. Yeah. But what I would wish for the world and for people to start looking around for where those moments of love are. In the exchange with somebody, in a kind word.
Because they're breaking open all the time, aren't they?
They're breaking open all the time.
And we were saying to keep an open mind, to keep an open heart.
Open heart.
You know, and because I feel like that the heart or the mind, like that's blown open. Like Heaney is driving in the west of Ireland with the Brian Friel, the playwright, and his wife and Heaney's wife. And the poem is called Postscript. And I'm thinking about the relationship, me being over here as an Irishman in England, and it was the first time I heard that Michael D. Higgins had come over and had said yes to the invitation of the Queen to be over here in England. And there was this gathering and there was all of these events and people are sitting. I think it's about love. And then they read Heaney's poem as part of the night. And it's about their car journey in the west of Ireland. If you have the time, go out west. If you have the time, sit in the morning. I mean, that's the line I'm adding. And there's
if you have time, sit in the morning.
Yeah. And that the heart that's caught off guard and blown open. And when I pay attention and I listen sometimes to, like Annabelle had came back, shared a couple of stories. We've been sharing stories, very ordinary. And because it's extraordinary when you begin to orientate towards the ordinary. And it's like, I'd agree that religion, like even when you think about the word religion, to link back, I am one. I can't quite recall the line that but
I am one, the Lord is one. But it's about oneness, and then you see that in many, I don't want to say all, but in faiths, it's this oneness, right? It's belonging, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, part of the chain, part of the cycle. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It makes us. It's a total equality and a space for everyone at the table.
That's right.
And as you said, it's not. I said open-minded, but of course it's about staying open. Yeah. The curiosity of seeing something and engaging with it and coming back to it. Yeah. So it's also Lectio Divina is kind of like a metaphor for something that is curious and sometimes maybe a little bit difficult to go back to it again. Saying it was difficult. Yeah. Yeah. But maybe I'll give it another go, or I never want that to happen again, but I need to explore it to understand what it was. Yeah. So it's this revisiting.
All the time. And you said yesterday to me you said, like, I could read that again in 12 months' time and experience that completely differently. Yeah. And that's often the experience also in our lives. I tell myself a particular story because we like to make meaning, and I have a particular view because I have a perspective, but my perspective can be a little bit closed. And then somebody might say to me, if you orientated over there, so if you opened love up I understand things and I am understood differently.
Yeah. And I think that's also the art of Lectio Divina, of learning how to do it. Is how is love speaking to you? Not how's the text, what do you make of the text?
Yeah. What do you think? This is a good
Well, I
story.
think it's well written.
Yeah. I like the comments.
I think it's a nice. He missed a few points. I mean, I would personally edit it a little bit. And if we go back to the original translation in Greek, it says something slightly different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
It is, how is love speaking to you now?
Yeah.
Right. What would love have you do?
Yeah. And and that I'm thinking, the excitement, the joy. It's the joy, not the excitement. It's the joy that, it's beautiful. Teacher that I met a couple of months ago, who's does a lot of work around focusing, and no friend of mine, Bernadette, said she'd be a great person to have on the podcast, but let's ask her first before I out her. And but she said mystery loves noticing us, noticing it. Because it's personal, it's a relationship.
Yes.
And it's an experience.
Yeah.
And in an experience, something has changed. How does this change me?
Yeah.
How does it speak to me in the particular circumstances of my life? So when I was traveling over in the plane on the first day coming over, and Ziva said, she said, I find everything that I need in the Bible. He said, whatever the things I'm struggling with, and because she's read, it's in her. So she said, she doesn't, she didn't say that she had Lectio Divina practice, but as she listens inside, and she said, could you speak to me? Could you? And then she'll hear, oh, this will be whatever the particular books are, and the acts, and and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
It's
incredible. And it's this willingness to follow into it and to come back to it, and the discipline of it, right? And in a society now that's very fast, where I go online, I buy myself a new jumper because I think it will really make me feel a little bit more loved. And I have nice jumpers, probably too many, but it's very fast and transactional, right?
Yeah.
I pay something, I do something, I get something back. But with love, of course, it's like it pays out actually very fast, but it does require a lot. Like the self-disclosure.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot and often it doesn't. So it takes a long time because we can't give it ourselves yet.
Yeah.
And we think, this love is not really like Amazon, is it?
Yeah.
It's quite frustrating. I'll just go back to that that I think is giving it. But honestly, very often you notice a lot of loneliness in society because people are stuck in a cycle. We are stuck in cycles.
We are,
right? Of not giving ourselves permission to try something else, or to step into our vulnerability and share that with others.
Yeah, which always touches people, doesn't it? And opens like in the authentic sharing. And I really appreciate the way you were saying that love, like it pays out fast, but it, and the self-disclosure, because I am the self-disclosure of love.
Yes.
And I get there by self-disclosing more. And so even a part of us is podcast and saying, I really enjoy hanging out with you, Jake. Really love you. Really enjoy the friendship. The fact that there's, you're Annabelle. I know her. Really love the two of you. And you kind of go, it's just me and them to know about. Don't worry about it. 10, none, 1, doesn't matter.
But it can feel risky sometimes.
Yeah, can feel, definitely a little bit edgy. And then you notice that sometimes you sit with people when they, the moment, we were talking about that last night, and they lean in a little bit, and you can see in their body something has changed.
Yeah.
They're blown open.
Yeah.
I love the saying that, and sometimes it can be in such small ways, isn't it, where Machado, the Spanish poet, he says, even the man or woman who walks just a little is like Jesus who walks in water. That they offer a little something, they hint at something, they've moved a millimeter, and and the slowing down, as you were saying about life, because life is fast, isn't it? It asking me to live at this pace that I couldn't tell you. What am I doing next? What's the next meeting?
Yeah, we're doing lots and lots of things with very little meaning. Yeah, so that we might cram in more in a life that is supposed to is going to be longer than people in the Middle Ages. Yeah, right. Who if they could read. Maybe read half a book because of, compared to what we consume. Yeah. And have we got more? No, it feels eroded to me. It's
a great word.
So there's this gorging on consuming everything, not just food and alcohol and clothes, but also like, I need to read the next book. Have you read the next book? You've got to read this book. People send you stuff, whole books they send you.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping
you should read this.
I'm hoping that I'm going home with a whole heap of new books, what I mean? Yeah. But actually, the only one is maybe buy a Bible in the Abbey. But your word where you were saying about being eroded, Jake, and we were sharing earlier on this week about dignity. My dignity's been eroded. Yeah. That the way society asks me to live is eroding the dignity of my life. Yeah. And I see sometimes, we were talking about, films, or I can't think of the name. There was a Japanese film that I watched, and there was a little bit of subtitles in it. Yeah, he was cleaning toilets.
Perfect Days.
Oh, it was
perfect. A man who chose a simple life. Yeah. From a very rich family. Yeah. They were all disappointed, and he was cleaning toilets.
Yeah. I love that film.
Yeah. And he has his lunch every day. You see the repetition of the day with his little lunchbox.
That's right.
Looking at the trees, the wind going through. Different toilet. Yeah. Different public toilet. And the way he's cleaning it, he's not trying to get his bucks quick and give it a quick wipe over, a little bit of spray. He's cleaning it meticulously with love. Yeah. He has chosen that job.
Yeah. And it's so, like I was telling you about the man that I watched in Albuquerque, that he was working outside the reception of the hotel, and he was cutting the plants outside the hotel with his scissors, and the way that man was working was a study in love. And he so moved me that I had got a purchase, because I really needed one, right? For our home. I had purchased a crucifix, and a wooden crucifix with a wooden carving of Jesus, and the colour of the loincloth was just, it blew something open in me. And I had it in my bag with some other bits, and I got chatting to him, and he was telling me about, he had, as a young boy, he had lost his one of his eyes in a fishing, a hook came back into his eye, and lovely, gorgeous human being, and just chatted, like you and me chatting, two guys, and anyway, I said, I was looking at, I said, there's some things that I have, I thought about, but I said maybe, and just the exchange, like the joy of, just giving it away. I mean, I didn't realize the reason I was going around to, that I was getting those pieces, because there was a man that needed them.
Yeah. But also the dignity of taking that job very seriously. Yeah. Dignifying your own work. Yeah. Dignifying your own work. Yeah. Doing it as best you can. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Yeah. This is my field. This is my farm. Yeah. And I often think about my own father on that. Like we all have father and mother. We all have particular gifts, skills. Like there are limitations. There are things I won't be doing, and I do it to the best of my ability. It mightn't be your best. It's my best. It's what and in the moments where you can, I had a bit of an off day. I had an off hour in facilitation. I had because maybe I wasn't listening. I wasn't. The loving thing was to go to bed a little bit earlier, to get up a little bit earlier, to kind of actually say to someone, you know what, I'm not going to take on any new work at this time.
Yeah.
You know, even though people are saying, you know, you're doing really well for yourself here, Jake. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, right now I'm all good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that requires a lot of listening.
Yeah. It feels, as I listen in this moment, like what a nice way to move towards a gentle end to our next cup of tea or
and our next encounter.
Next encounter, yeah. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, listeners.
Thanks, listeners.
You have been listening to The Hinge, a podcast presented by Noel O'Driscoll and Jake Espin, produced by Jer Kellett. Feel free to contact the show in the comments or by emailing us at thehingepodcast@gmail.com. Join us next week for another episode of The Hinge.